Yo, comrades, what's up? Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to follow up with the previous campaign level. This is campaign level number 22. And Nikke got us a victory. Invasion! So the invasion of the Ark by the Raptures is like readily on its way. So we, as us and the counters, like re-roll in. The whole thing's chaos. We still can't get communications through. There's Raptures everywhere. We decide to head to like one of the big three CEOs, so we can establish communications, and Rappy or somebody mentions that Elysion is the closest. So right before we head off, we have like a recollection of a conversation we had with Nikke about like Chatterbox and about how she's familiar with everything and how there's like deals with the Raptures and everything, and we're like, no, we need to go talk to Enoch instead. And so Rappy does some like quick calculations, like, all right, we can go like through downtown or we can go like around. Downtown's going to be, and then so we're like, let's go downtown, that way we can help anybody who's being attacked, even though the outside would be a little bit faster because there won't be as many crazy things going on. So on our way, we immediately run into Polly and Miranda, who are members of ACPU, who we haven't really talked about because they have their own little, like, I think Query has their own event, which is the third member of the squad, so I figured I'd just do all of them at the same time, their Bond stories and whatnot. So they gave us a sit rep on the problem. There's apparently no human casualties. They were able to, like, escape, which is confirmed a little bit later by Nikke, and that Nikkes are all over the city, or over the Ark, like, engaging the enemy and whatnot. So we tell them we're on our way to meet with Nikke and that they're welcome to come up with us. So Polly has like a funny conversation with Rappy about stupefying Raptures. Essentially, you can stupefy Raptures if you act in a way that's not expected because they're like computers, and that works. And so Miranda's like, I volunteer to do it, and Polly's like, you really, absolutely not. And then Miranda's like, no, I insist. And so she rushes out and she's like, I arrest you, Raptures. And the Raptures like all eyeball each other and they start firing on her. And then Rappy and Polly are like, holy shit, we gotta go save her ass. So we do. So after we save her, we find out that like we're having a hard time like redirecting the route because there's so many areas that are like crumbled with debris and other things like that, and there's so many collapsed buildings and whatnot. But then we find out Miranda's a traffic cop, and so she knows like every alternative route in the city, and so she's like, okay, I'm gonna lead the way, and she heads off. And then Rappy's like, or I think it's Ainz is like, hey Polly, no one has cars in the city, why do we need a traffic cop? And Polly's like, shut the fuck up. Oh, Miranda, such a disaster. So let's see. Okay, so we get closer and closer to Nikke, and finally she like reaches out communication to us, and we find out she set up like a hotspot essentially so that she could chat with us specifically, even though the communication's down generally. And we're like, well, everyone's like not paying attention. We're like, is this something to do with Chatterbox? And she's like, it is unrelated because she's an AI. And then we're like, well, then what happened? And then she confirms that there's no human casualties, that the Nikkes are taking care of everything. And then we're like, so what's going on? And she's like, watch this video. And we're like, okay, let's watch this video. So 3 days ago, Rosanna is in Coin Rush, and she's trying to sell her, like, she's essentially trying to like protection racket, Sicilian style, to Blanca Noir for the protection of Coin Rush. And we learned that they've been having a lot of difficulties, and that it's Blanca Noir have not been doing a great job because Rogue and Juan, who is the fourth member, who we, in 2025, we have still not ever met this person, as far as I can tell. So she's like hard into NPC jail. Anyway, that, and Rosanna's here to like help deal with all like the ruffians and whatnot, and she's going to do it for the small price of 6% of the profits. And the twins are like, holy shit, hell no. And so then like 2 days later, which is like 1 day before all the invasion, Rosanna's back, and she's like, all right, I'm ready to wheel and deal. And then Sakura's there, and she's like, nope, I already promised them protection for only 30%. Anyway, they start going into like back and forth, and then the buddies are like, holy shit, we're in dire straits. And then right before Blanc is about to like accept the deal, Morin shows up. Morin's the third member, which we have not gotten to when it comes to the Underworld Queens. Her event's coming up eventually. We'll deal with her Bond story then. Anyway, she gets into it. She's like, how dare you? You're besmirching the name of the Underworld Queens, yada yada. And then her and Rosanna really get into it, and we get a nice shot of them like pressing their boobs against each other. And Morin is so hot. She's definitely one of my waifus. Like high fives all around the Chinese Nikke waifu. Anyway, we then kind of take a short break back to the present, and Polly's like, wait, hold on. What? I don't understand. Like, why are they fighting? What does this have to do with anything? Yada, yada, yada. And then what does that do with the Raptures? And, like, why would they, like, why would the Underworld Queens do all this stuff with Coin Rush, you know, don't they have their own money and yada, yada? And Aink is just like, hey, shut the fuck up and just keep watching. So we do. Okay, so we go back, and there's some more arguing, and then finally Moron's like the Peony Association, which is like her gang. They're going to protect Coin Rush for free. And then Rosanna and Sakura like both look at each other, and they're like, hey, we need to talk in private right now, Moron. And then she's like, what? Why? And then you hear this like crazy noise, which is smoke. Someone blast open like a door, and they threw some smoke into Coin Rush. And then Sakura's like, hey, Blanca Noir, I need to know what your most valuable thing is like right now. And they're like, oh, it's this necklace over there with a bunch of jewels in it. And like Sakura's like, there. And she pulls out her gun and like fires into like the clouded smoke. And then Moron's like, you got her? And Sakura's like, nope. Because there's too many, there's like an alpha particle solution mixed in with the smoke, so she wasn't able to, like, it kind of messed up her aim and all that stuff. And that's interesting because apparently they knew, whoever did this like little invasion knew that there were going to be Nikkes here, and so they purposely did that, because otherwise why would they do that? And in my head I'm like, of course they knew there were Nikkes here, like Blanca Noir are here. Anyway. But anyway, so then Sakura turns to the twins and talks about the necklace and how they're going to try to sell it, and it must have something to do with Heavenly Ascension, which is like the terrorist group. Maybe they're trying to fend something, and they need to get more information. So Rosanna's like, okay, I'm going to head out to the Outer Rim, and Sakura's like, all right, I'm going to check the dark net and see if I can find out any information about selling of the necklace or the jewels or anything. And then Moron's like, wait, I want to help too. What can I do? And I'm like, Moron, I love you so much. I just want to put my face in your giant tits. Anyway, so then they're like, hey, go out and find out what's going on in the Ark. And she's like, about what? And then the girls are like, Jesus Christ. About Heavenly Ascension. They clearly are planning a terrorist attack. They need money, so go. And so then we take each girl in turn. So we start with Rosanna. She's out beating the shit out of some like high up in the Heavenly Ascension. And we find out that EH, who's the head of the Heavenly Ascension, that she apparently went and like spoke with the central government. And Rosanna's like, did she beg for money? Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what's going on with that? And then eventually she finds out there's like a text they received, and she checks the text, and it's like, hey, make sure that you broadcast to everybody that this meeting's happening and that you're going to steal from Coin Rush. And then it has a little heart, and Rosanna's like, fucking Viper, what is she doing? Then we switch over, but why? Why is Viper involved in this? What is she doing? So then Sakura is meeting with Dollar, and if you remember from Dollar's Bond story, she loves the Darknet. It's like her favorite thing in the whole universe. So because she's a master of it, she's like looking through everything, and she mentions that there's been like 200 guns purchased recently, and a bomb, like an excavation bomb. So a bomb specifically that's going to fire in like one location just to like bust up mines and stuff. And they used it. They have a bunch of these bombs from when they were building the Ark, right? And but then we find out that these guns are like Nikke guns, and it's like there's no Nikkes in the fuck, not Outer Haven. Outer Rim, in the Outer Rim. And so, like, what could they possibly be doing with all this shit? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So why is this happening? And then we switch over to Morin, and Morin's talking to her boy Jin, who's like her man who knows all this shit. And we find out about the bomb and the guns again. And then it's like, well, how are they going to get them into the Outer Rim? There's like barriers and there's guards posted and stuff. And it's like, well, there's elevators. Just like there's elevators in the Ark that go up and down. There's elevators in the Outer Rim that go up and down as well. So you can take an elevator from the Ark to the Outer Rim and vice versa. You just got to go through the surface. And normally like humans wouldn't do that, but the people in the Outer Rim are so desperate that they've like found ways, right? And we hear more about this on and off about how like some humans do go up and they do stuff like that. And Moron's like, I have to stop EH right now before it's too late. So then we jump ahead a little bit, and EH, who's fine as shit, is trying to get on this elevator, dragging a bunch of bags full of like rifles and shit, like 200 How is she carrying this? Anyway, but she's carrying that and the bomb over to this thing, and then Moron shows up, and she's like, Ellison Harper, and I'm like, Elysion? Like, Elysion Harper? Like, is she related to SEO? We don't get any information about that now, but that's very interesting. And she's like, don't call me by my real name. And she's like, you got to stop. Like, we're trying to protect you and whatnot. And then she tells Moron, like, well, what are you going to do? Like, what's going on? And then Moron is having a hard time, like, responding to, like, how she's going to help the Outer Rim and make things stop when Rosanna and Sakura show up. And then they have, like, this nice little three-way conversation. And we learn that EH met with the deputy chief because she had, like, a come-to-Jesus moment. Like, when when Missiles summoned the Raptures, which, I mean, people don't really realize that it was Missiles. But, and they came all close, and Mattis had to save everybody. It, like, really put the fear of God into Heavenly Ascension, and she's like, we spent so much time, like, concentrating on fighting the government or trying to get stuff for the people that we forgot that the true enemy is the Raptures. And so we need some sort of defense, because, like, we're not going to get protected. And so I went and begged for some Nikkes that could just protect the Outer Rim in case of Raptures. And if the deputy chief had, like, given me those things, I would have broken up Heavenly Ascension. We would have done with terrorist activity forever. But then he tried to kill me, so I had to escape, and then I didn't know what else to do, so I had to do something to protect like the people out of the Rim. And this motherfucker kept calling us like not human. He's like, why would we waste resources on things that aren't human? And it's like, we're human. And then Moron's like, I believe you're human. And then the other girls are like, yeah, we're gonna take care of you, we're gonna make sure you'll be protected, blah 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 blah. And right as EH is about to be like, okay, I believe you guys. She gets shot. Jesus Christ. And we find out it's a mass-produced Nikke who's being commanded by Dobin, who's the deputy chief, who's the biggest asshole in this game. Maybe not the biggest asshole. He is one of the biggest assholes in this game. And so he came along and he wants to kill EH because she's not human and he's a total douchebag. Anyway, and he also tries to implement the Underworld Queens in this whole situation by being like, oh, you guys, you brought me over here and you helped me do this. And they're like, what do you do? Shit, motherfucker. Like, get the fuck out of here. Are you recording this so you can pretend like you didn't do this on purpose and you're killing people and doing things you shouldn't be doing? And then he's like, whatever, kill her. And so mass-produced Nikke is about to shoot EH when Sakura blasts the shit out of her rifle. And is like, I don't think so, motherfucker. And then EH like pulls off her vest or pulls off her jacket. It is like she has a suicide vest. And she's like, I'm pretty bad at making bombs, but this will kill you and me, Dobin. And Dobin's like, shit. And so he like dives behind the mass-produced Nikke and then she like drags her shit over to the elevator and is about to go up. And then Dobin's like, I chained it shut. There's no way you can get through it. And so he taunts EH and he taunts the queens. And then the elevator door just shuts and she starts going up. And Moron's like, the fuck? Because originally she was like, I gotta go protect her. She doesn't get shot by this asshole. And then everyone's like, what the fuck? What's going on? And then Rosanna walks up to the elevator and sees the chain has been bitten through. And she's like, Jackal? Like, the fuck is happening? Meanwhile, EH gets to the surface. She's like, I did it. I'm free. This is going to be great. And then all of a sudden the excavation bomb goes off. And she's like, fuck. And then we head back to the present, where Anik is like, there you go, that's what happened. So the excavation bomb went off on the surface, which blasted a hole down into the arc through the elevator situation, and that's how they got in. And Irons is like, wait, but you're like the greatest AI of all time. You take care of their account. You could have stopped this. And then Anik is like, well, I can't evaluate every little thing. Like, there were so many little things. There wasn't like a big plan for this to happen. There was like so many little things that took place that I missed it. So my bad. I'm not perfect. And then I'm not very good at like estimating the human mind clearly. And then once there was a whole blasted, there was a Lord class that summoned all the raptures around, and there were a ton of raptures because there were still raptures from when Mantis went out there in the whole Missilus thing. So they were just kind of hanging out. So it made it like real bad, real fast. And we're like, what can we do? And Anik's like, come to me. So once we get to her, she tells us that the evasion will be over in 5 hours. That Mighty Tools is already fixing the hole, and the Absolute and Mattis were deployed to like stem the tide, and that there's Nikkes all over, and there's been like some injuries, but no casualties and no serious damage, and that there hasn't been a single human hurt. So in 5 hours, this whole thing's going to be fixed up. And we're like, so why did you want us to come here so bad? And she's like, Nylister is going to be here in like 3 minutes. And we're like, what? And she's like, I sent out a summoning signal for her because she was nearby and she was going to come check it out anyway. And we're like, the fuck? And right around that time, Nylister like blasts her way in, and she's like, what's up, motherfuckers? And she's like, wait a second, I'm going to kill you guys. But first, what is that thing I sense? Oh, it's Chatterbox and Indivilia. And we're like, Indivilia? And it's like, yeah, Material H. And we're like, oh yeah, freaking Material H is here. And she's like, I'm going to go get them after I kill you guys. And so then we fight her, and then she gets super pissed off after we beat her the first time. And she jumps up into the sky to like blast the shit out of us with her fire. And we're hiding behind some barriers. And then Anik is like, these barriers are going to last for like 11 more seconds or something. And we're like, fuck. And then all of a sudden, this laser light, like this laser shoots down, blasts through Nylister, knocking her to the ground. And everyone like looks up in the sky, and there's like this beautiful angel descending down, and the whole arc like lights up with like beautiful light. And oh yeah, right before this all happened, Rappy's about to be like code break or whatever, like when she does her like superpowers. But then we all look up and see the lone illuminated figure floating down, declaring that she's the savior of the Earth. And dun dun dun, it's Doro. Fucking Doro. And that wraps up this part of the adventure. We'll pick up in a couple weeks. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later.